Hello everyone, in this video we're going to draw a gorilla. Start by drawing a circle as a guide for the head. An easy way to draw a circle is to first make a couple of small marks to indicate the circle's height, and then on the sides make a couple more small marks to indicate the circle's width. Then connect the small marks using curved lines to finish the shape of the circle. You don't have to draw a perfect circle, but if you're having trouble drawing one, just trace the outer edge of a coin, a bottle cap, or anything else with a circular edge. Inside the circle, draw a curved horizontal line for a construction guide. Draw this line slightly below the center of the circle. Above that, draw a vertical line for another construction guide. At the bottom, draw a smaller circle as a guide for the area that's around the mouth. Pay attention to the size of this circle in relation to the head. A big part of the circle should be outside of the head. Draw a couple of short curved lines on the sides to finish the guides for the bottom section of the head. Make this bottom section wider than the first circle. Above the first circle, make a small mark to indicate the top of the head. Connect the small mark to the shapes below using curved lines to finish the guide for the top part of the head. Make the top of the head tall. Below the head, draw a big circle as a guide for the top part of the body. Use the small marks method to draw this circle too. First, make a few small marks to indicate the sides of the circle, and then connect the marks using curved lines to finish the shape of the circle. This circle should be almost twice as big as the entire head. Draw this circle slightly to the left of the head. Sketch lightly at first so that it's easy to erase if you make a mistake. Also, pause the video as you follow along to draw at your own pace. To the left of the head, draw a small circle as a guide for the shoulder. This circle should be almost the same size as the first circle for the head. Don't overlap the shapes of the head as you draw this circle. Starting on the bottom left side of the shoulder, lightly sketch a sloping line for the first part of the arm. At the bottom, draw another small circle for the middle joint on the arm. Make this circle slightly smaller than the shoulder circle. Draw a curved vertical line for the right edge of the arm. Below that, lightly sketch a couple of curved vertical lines as guides for the forearm. At the bottom, draw a small circle as a guide for the hand. Pay attention to the placement of this circle below the body. Darken the lines for the forearm and make the shape wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. At the very bottom, draw a short horizontal line as a guide for the knuckles. Draw a small circle on the right side of the head as a guide for the other shoulder. Don't overlap the head as you draw this circle. Farther down, draw another circle for the middle joint on this arm. Draw this middle joint on the same level as the other middle joint. Connect the circles using curved vertical lines to finish the guide for the top part of the arm. Draw a couple more curved lines below that as a guide for the forearm. Make the forearm wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Add a smaller circle at the bottom as a guide for the hand. At the very bottom, draw a horizontal line as a guide for the knuckles. On the left side, draw a long curved line as a guide for the lower section of the body. To the left, draw a long curved line as a guide for the top section of the first leg. This line should be similar to a big oval. Below that, draw a couple of curved vertical lines as guides for the lower section of the leg. At the very bottom, draw a shape that's similar to a half circle as a guide for the foot. Make the bottom of this shape flat. To the right, draw a long angled line for the visible section of the other leg. And that's it for the guidelines. Now let's start on the final drawing. Inside the head, lightly sketch 2 small ovals for the eyes. Place the eyes on top of the horizontal construction guide and on either side of the vertical guide. When you get the sizes and positions of the eyes right, darken the shapes. As you darken the shapes, make the sides pointier for the corners of the eyes. Inside the eyes, draw short curved lines for the irises. In the middle of the irises, draw tiny dots for pupils. Draw a couple of short curved lines above the eyes for the eyelids. Keep the lines close to the shapes of the eyes. Draw a couple more curved lines below the eyes for wrinkles. Add longer sloping lines above the eyes for the thick brow. Curve the outer tips of these lines downward. Draw a couple of short vertical lines between the eyes for the bridge of the nose. Draw more short lines below the eyes for more creases on the skin. Below the eyes, draw a couple of longer curved lines for the first part of the nose. These lines should be similar to parentheses. Sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shapes right. Inside the shape, draw a couple of short angled lines for the nostrils. Draw the nostrils close to each other. Add short curved lines at the bottom to finish the nostrils. Add more lines above the nose to create more wrinkles. Below the nose, draw a horizontal line for the mouth. Slope the outer tips of this line down. Make the shape of the mouth wide. Draw a curved line on the right side along the path of the initial circle. Below the mouth, draw a curved line for the chin. To the left, draw a curved line for the side of the face. Follow the path of the circle as you draw the line. Higher above the eyes, draw a couple of short lines for the top edge of the brow. The shape of the brow should be wide. Darken the guides on the sides to create the outer edges of the head. Use a couple of angled lines to create a furry texture. Below the chin, draw a few more angled lines for more hair. Don't draw these lines too far down below the chin. Use the top part of the first circle as a guide to draw the inner section of the head. Draw a series of short lines along the basic path of the circle to create a hairy texture. On the left side, draw a short curved line for the ear. Draw a couple of short lines within the ear to give it structure. Use the tall arc as a guide to draw the top part of the head. Darken the arc using a series of short strokes and angled lines to create a hairy texture. On the left side, draw a couple of sloping lines for the back of the head. If you've made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Now use the series of shapes along the middle of the body as guides to draw the first arm. Darken the outer edges of the guides to create the shape of the arm. Add a few short angled lines as you darken the guides to create a hairy texture. Draw a couple of short horizontal lines for wrinkles on the hand. On the bottom left side, draw a short curved shape for the first finger. Add an even smaller curved line on the left side for the visible tip of the finger. Now draw more short vertical lines to the right for the rest of the fingers. The tips of the other fingers won't be visible from this angle. Draw the arm on the right the same way. Darken the outer edges of the guides to create the shape of the arm. Curve the top left side of this shape for the chest. Use a series of short strokes and angled lines to create a hairy texture. At the bottom, draw a short horizontal line for a crease. Now draw short vertical lines for the fingers. On the bottom left side, draw a short curved line for the visible tip of the index finger. Slightly higher, draw a short U-shaped line for the thumb. Darken the outer edges of the shapes on the left side to create the leg. Curve the lines to create the muscle structure. Add a couple of short curved lines in the middle of the shape for the knee. Draw small shapes along the bottom of the guide for the toes. Draw a short sloping shape on the right side for the opposable toe. Darken the line on the right for the visible section of the other leg. Darken a few lines in the middle to create the torso. Below the head, draw a couple of curved lines for the chest. Now erase the initial guidelines. The next few steps are sped up so that the video isn't too long. Redraw any of the final lines that you may have accidentally erased. Now shade your drawing. Use a medium value across the body. Shade lightly at first and gradually build up to darker values. For light values, push down very lightly on your pencil, then push down harder for darker values. Leave a few thin sections blank to create highlights. use darker values to create shadows. Shadows and highlights will give the figure more dimension and volume. Slowly and gradually add darker values across the body. Add a cast shadow at the bottom using a medium value. Go over the final lines again to emphasize the shapes. Shading can be time-consuming, so be patient and take breaks. Keep shading until you're happy with the result, and that's it for the gorilla. Remember to pause the video to draw at your own pace. Also, please visit howtodrawanimals.com for more tutorials. That's how, and then the number 2, then drawanimals.com. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider buying my books on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. Let me know in the comments what other animals you want to see me draw. Don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep drawing.